Hello, my name is Sheraya Erickson, and I'm going to be analyzing The Blind Side and the concepts and theories in it for my critical assignment presentation. I'm sorry I'm sick, so I hope you can understand what I'm saying, but if you'd also like to open up the presentation now, I'll be referring to a lot of things in there and it'll help you to follow along. So firstly, I want to give you a summary for those of you who haven't seen The Blind Side as to what it is. The Blind Side takes place in Tennessee, mainly revolves around the lives of Michael Orr and the Toohey family. Michael Orr has grown up in the foster system, grew up in a really slum part of the towns, and the Toohey family, on the other hand, are very wealthy. Michael is also black, while the Tooheys are white, but this doesn't change the way that they treat him in any way. And as Michael gets accepted into a Christian school called Wingate Christian School, he befriends one of the Tooheys, which is SJ, and he is their Mr. and Mrs. Toohey's son. And through this whole process, the Tooheys end up taking Michael into their home to provide for him, and then furthermore they end up adopting him, and this unleashes a whole lot of potential for Michael in terms of succeeding in school, as well as feeling loved and involved. And furthermore, he ends up going and playing football for a college, Ole Miss, and then later on he will play for the NFL in actually the Baltimore Ravens in the 2009 NFL draft. So that's just a brief summary of the movie, but there's also an image that you can refer to see the faces of the actors and probably put faces to the people that I'll be referring to, but that's on the presentation. So the first concept is adapters. The book defines this as unintentional movements of the body that reveal information about psychological state or inner needs, such as nervousness. Now, this can be most seen in Michael Orr's interview with Jocelyn Granger, who is an athletics kind of security personnel or social worker, and this is because there have been concerns with the fact that Michael Orr has chosen Ole Miss, and Mr. and Mrs. Toohey are alma maters of Ole Miss. So during this whole interview, Granger comes across as being very abrasive, very powerful and authoritative, but more in a negative light. And the effect that this has on Michael can be clearly seen in his physical response. You first see that his head is often tilted down. He's not making eye contact with her very much, and when he does, it's definitely not when he's answering her questions. And his eyes are constantly shifting around, especially when his head is tilted down. He's shifting around as if he's looking for the answers in his head. And he's also running his hands up and down his lower thighs in almost a nervous gesture. So all of these things reveal the fact that he is feeling nervous, uncomfortable, confused with what Mr. and Mrs. Toohey, his parents now, are being accused of, and he's also feeling very tense, and this all comes across in his demeanor. The second concept that we see is low monitored feedback. Our book defines this as feedback that is sincere and spontaneous, feedback delivered without careful planning. Now this can be seen mainly in SJ's remarks that he has to Michael, in that he's a child, so he responds in almost a carefree nature of a child. He's also brutally honest, as well as he being unaware of stereotypes. His remarks never reflect that, but they're coming from the honesty of one human being to another. So when Michael first starts coming to Wingate Christian School, he tries to come and say hi to two little girls that also go to the school, and they freak out and run away. And Sean's advice to Michael is just smile at them. It lets them know that they're your friends. And he's not aware of anything else that would cause them to be freaked out about him. That's just his general response. And we also see this when Michael buys a whole lot of widely striped shirts, and being brutally honest when Michael sits down for lunch with SJ responds saying, "Enough with the rugby shirts, you look like a giant bumblebee," as if it's the most natural thing to say. Furthermore, when SJ and Michael get in a car accident, SJ's first response, rather than being concerned about any injury, is, "Mama, do you think the blood will come out of my shirt?" Showing the fact that his priorities are not quite the same as an adult's would be. We also see this kind of low monitored feedback in Leanne Tui's, in that while at a football game cheering on Michael, there is a gentleman behind them who is constantly making remarks that are negative, stereotyped, racist, and all of that towards Michael. And Mrs. Tui, while initially just saying brush it off, eventually has had enough and spontaneously turns around and responds and says, "Hey, crotchmouth, yeah, you, zip it or I'll come up there and zip it for you." And this reveals the fact that she's a very protective mother, and this reveals her protective nature, and that she will not let anyone criticize her son. The next concept that we see, the next concept that we see is Maslow's needs hierarchy, and this is our book describes this as a 5-level pyramid hierarchy of human needs developed by Abraham Maslow. And I'm going to go through how these needs are fulfilled in Michael Orr's life. You can see that his physiological needs are fulfilled by the Tui family, and that they provide him with food, shelter, water, clothing, and to a degree education as well. Security is also provided for Michael in being with the Tuis, and that he's under their insurance plan and they will protect him at all costs, and that's not something he's experienced before. He experienced belongingness with his success in school and his friends with the teammates that he plays with in the football team. And the fact that he's good friends with these teammates also, it builds that team element, so there always is that belongingness in a team. You also see this in esteem, which is the 4th level, and that he establishes his self-worth as he succeeds and realizes his potential in life. And this can be seen as he's developing his grades as well as academically and athletically in school. And self-actualization comes when he fulfills his unique potential in football as a left tackle, both in college and later on in the NFL. Next, we're going to jump into theories. So looking at the fundamental interpersonal relations orientation, our book describes this as a 3-dimensional theory of interpersonal behavior, highlighting the needs for inclusion, control, and affection. In Michael Orr's life, we can see all 3 of these elements displayed. We see inclusion with that SJ is the first one to include him as a friend. Then the entire Tui family includes them as a family member. And thirdly, he's included as a member of the football team, and that becomes his football family. We see control in the fact that the Tuis give him a car, which gives him control over elements of his life. We also see that he has control over his future, and that he has the ultimate decision as to what university he will go to and play for. We also see that he has this element of affection played out in that the primary source of this comes from Mrs. Tui. When he brings him home to have a place to sleep, then she buys him clothes. Then she takes a special interest in him to the point where she wants to continue to provide for him. She also wants to get to know him. She is the one who finds out that he prefers being called Michael over Big Mike. And then finally she is the one who takes the initiative in adopting him, constantly showers him with love, and is forever telling him and showing him that she will always protect him and care for him and has his best interest in mind and wants the best for his life and wants him to be able to choose that. Finally, we have our second theory, which is the social comparison theory. Our book defines this as a theory that is affirming that individuals compare themselves to others to develop a feel for how their talents, abilities, and qualities measure up. This can also be seen in Michael Orr's life, as a lot of other things, and that he compares his talents as a football player to others. After the whole incident with the athletic security personnel, Michael runs away, and then when Mrs. Tui finds him, she has a conversation with him that leads to her asking if he even likes football or wants to play it. And Michael's response is that he says, "Oh, I'm pretty good at it," which is an understatement because he's great. But this reveals the fact that he has compared his ability to others in order to establish this standard of what is good. And that is my analysis for you. Thank you.